Welcome to Timeless Prosperity. This channel is for anyone who feels stuck between who they are and who they know they could be. We explore timeless self-mastery texts and translate them into simple, modern conversations. I have studied these wisdoms and teachings and read a lot and realized that many, if not all, of the wisdoms and lessons we see today are actually based on teachings that took place over a century ago. So without further ado, here is the next chapter. Chapter 5. How to use autosuggestion the right way. Let's get back to the main point. Yes, you can learn to guide your imagination, and the method is simpler than you think. In fact, you've been using it your whole life, just unconsciously, and often in ways that work against you. The tool? Autosuggestion. We're constantly giving ourselves unconscious autosuggestions. I'm terrible at this. This always happens to me. I'll never get better. All we need to do is start giving ourselves conscious ones instead. Here's how it works. 1. Clarify what you want to change. Is it a habit, a feeling, a physical symptom? Get specific. 2. Ask yourself, does this need a yes or a no? If you want something to happen, repeat gently, this is coming. If you want something to stop, repeat gently, this is going away. 3. Repeat the phrase several times, without forcing it, without overthinking, just letting it sink in. 4. Let your unconscious take it from there. If it accepts the suggestion and turns it into autosuggestion, the change will follow. Note: of course, the thing has to be within the realm of possibility. Autosuggestion isn't magic. It works with your body and mind's natural capacities. When you understand it this way, autosuggestion is just another word for what some call hypnotism, but I prefer to keep it simple. The influence of imagination on our mental and physical well-being. And that influence? It's real. Let's look at a few more everyday examples. Belief shapes ability. If you truly believe you can do something, and it's physically possible, you'll find a way, even if it's hard. But if you're convinced you can't do something simple, you won't. Suddenly, tiny hurdles feel like mountains. Neurasthenia, chronic fatigue, anxiety. People who believe they're too weak to move often can't even walk a few steps without exhaustion. And the harder they try to push through, the worse it gets. Like someone sinking in quicksand. Struggle too hard, and you go down faster. Pain. Think, this pain is fading. And often, it does. Think, I'm in pain. And your body can start creating that sensation, even if there's no physical cause. Predicting headaches. Some people swear, I always get a migraine on rainy Tuesdays. And sure enough, they do. They didn't catch a virus. They planted the expectation, and their unconscious made it real. Others use that same mechanism to release pain instead. Note: Coué isn't blaming people for getting sick. He's showing how the mind-body connection works, and how we can work with it. I know this sounds radical. In fact, if you say stuff like this out loud, people might think you're a bit off. But I'll say it anyway. If someone is mentally or physically unwell, it's often because they imagine themselves that way. If someone is paralyzed with no physical injury, their unconscious believes they can't move, and the body follows. If two people face the exact same situation, and one is happy while the other is miserable, it comes down to the stories they tell themselves. Conditions like chronic anxiety, stuttering, strong aversions, compulsive behaviors, or certain types of paralysis, often they start as unconscious autosuggestions. The unconscious mind influencing the body and emotions without our awareness. But here's the hopeful flip side. If the unconscious can create these patterns, it can also undo them. It can heal not just the troubles it caused, but even real physical illnesses, because its influence on the body is that strong. How to practice the Coué method. 1. Find a quiet space. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes to minimize distractions. 2. For a minute or two, gently focus your mind on a simple phrase. This discomfort is fading. I am growing calmer. My energy is returning. 3. Repeat it softly, without strain, without analyzing, just letting it settle. 4. If your unconscious accepts it, you'll be surprised to see the change unfold. Note: autosuggested ideas often work below the surface. You might not feel them taking hold. You just notice the results later. Critical rule: do not try to force this with willpower. If your will says, I will make this happen, but your imagination whispers, yeah, right, that's not going to work, guess which one wins? Not only will you not get the result, you might get the opposite. This is huge. It explains why so many self-help efforts fail. They focus on trying harder or strengthening willpower. But willpower fighting imagination is like shouting at a river to flow uphill. The real work is training the imagination, not overpowering it. That subtle shift is why this method has helped people when other approaches fell short. After 20 years of careful observation and daily practice, I've distilled 4 guiding principles. 1. When will and imagination clash, imagination always wins. No exceptions. 2. The stronger your will fights against your imagination, the stronger imagination pushes back. Think. The harder you try not to think about something, the more you think about it. 3. When will and imagination agree, they don't just add up, they multiply. That's when real momentum happens. 4. Imagination can be directed. It's not random. You can learn to steer it. Note: Coué uses math metaphors, square of the will, multiplied by, to illustrate intensity, not to be taken literally. The point is about synergy versus conflict. So does this mean no one has to be sick? In theory, yes. Every illness, physical or mental, can respond to conscious autosuggestion. Do I mean it always does? No. But can it? Absolutely. And that possibility changes everything. Of course, knowing that isn't enough. Just like you can't read a book without learning the alphabet, you can't use autosuggestion effectively without learning how. It's a skill. And like any skill, it takes gentle, consistent practice. Remember, autosuggestion is a tool we're born with. We've been using it since infancy, like a baby shaking a rattle, just without realizing it. But it's a powerful tool. Used carelessly, it can hurt. Used consciously, it can heal, empower, and transform. As Aesop said about the tongue, it is at once the best and worst thing in the world. Same goes for autosuggestion. Who can use this? Just about everyone. Well, almost. There are 2 groups for whom conscious autosuggestion is harder to access. 1. People who aren't able to understand the concept due to cognitive limitations. 2. People who choose not to understand because they're not ready or not willing to engage. But if you're reading this and thinking, okay, I'm curious, let me try, then this method is for you. Check in tomorrow for the next chapter. If you like this type of content, please like and share. It will keep me motivated to produce more.